Right, hello everyone. It's Friday the 3rd, and this is the Service Binding Operators Developer weekly call. We have a couple of things on the agenda. Jesper, would you like to go with the announcements first?
Sure. Just wanted to make a quick announcement that we're going to be shifting the SBO weekly developer call from the current slot to start at 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Or 6:30 to 7 p.m. IST or 2 to 2:30 to 2:30 p.m. CET for next meeting and going on. So just wanted to kind of share this with the group before we make that change. Okay, this is to accommodate some changes in our schedule. So this hopefully, we can keep it to the 30 minutes. And if we feel that we need to extend this and change it again in the future, we can certainly do that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jesper. So is there any other announcement on anybody's mind?
So that basically shorten the time to 30 minutes, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Just maybe another thing. So this is still going to be weekly call. So if the intention to reduce thing is to make it shorter, should we consider going like a bi-weekly call? Is that a
No, I think it makes sense to keep it for a weekly for now.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move to the discussion section. We have a couple of topics. Baiju, would you like to go with the...
I think maybe let's come back to that. There is a technical discussion that Karthik brought up. So let's do that first, and then we can go to.
Okay, let's move it later to the... Okay, so Karthik, can you would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, I won't be able to present my screen, but the thing was that I was following the quick start guide, and I installed SBO in single namespace in the project which I declared. And when I binded the application, a Spring Boot application to Postgres, at that point of time, the user wasn't getting notified whether the service binding is correct or not. And the other part was there were certain errors which I got. The error logs being basically related to the permission which was not granted to the Postgres and the service accounts. So that is what, and I have also logged an issue for the same in our GitHub. So yeah, that's the main thing. So you need to identify whether that is a bug or like what should be done on that sense.
Okay, I'll go with my thought on this one. I know
Can
this
you,
is a brief.
before we go into the discussion, can you drop the link to the issue, please?
Yeah, sure.
On the link, should I paste
Yeah.
it?
Okay.
Paste it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So can I go share my thought? In one line, I think we should not support this single namespace installation. But the reasoning behind that one is that we have a feature that make it necessary to support more than one namespace. That is cross namespace referencing, right? So that means you can have your SPO that CR in one namespace, but the actual backing service CR could be in a different namespace. This is one feature that is supported in our current API. Feature is not there in the spec API because spec API doesn't allow cross namespace resource referencing. So because of that, we definitely need support for, as an administrator. Anyway, this another reason is that this operator is going to be installed as an administrator user, which definitely need the cluster scope permission. And if that user is doing, and if it is happening in the well-defined locations, like in the case of OpenShift, that is going to be under OpenShift operators. In the case of plain Kubernetes. That's, I think, it under operators namespace. So these locations is where we are adding that cluster role binding on top. So I think the best choice for us would be to remove this that choice from that installation wizard to select that option to select that single namespace. So let it be always that all namespaces in that OpenShift installation. That's my
Okay,
thought.
so that option is for an OLM, right? So
Right, yeah.
just I'm just thinking about users that don't use OLM. We have the way to install SBO to non-OLM environment using the release YAML file in upstream. So I guess that it wouldn't be affected there, right? And that way, I think it is actually being installed in a single namespace, service binding operator or something like that. So, Kartik, did you try to use that approach, or you just use the OpenShift operator hub and install it through that means?
No, I just opened the operator hub and installed like SVO and Punchy Postgres.
I'm puzzled on why it should not work. The reason explained by you, I don't get it. So as a user, if I have access
Yeah,
to a single
let-
namespace with, I mean, I see no reason why I should not be able to install 2 different operators and other things.
Now, what I mean is that by default, the user would be having access or permission to install in all that. Permission is required for us, right, in order to fully functioning all the features. So that means uh, I don't see any need to use giving a choice for user to install it in a particular specific or namespace.
So I think my point of view is, so coming from a Strimzy perspective and how we're expecting to use the service binding operator, one of the things we see a lot is users wanting to be quite restrictive of who can access which namespaces. So the solution that we're going for is we have Kafka, which is going to be installed in a particular namespace, but we've actually chosen to go with a different service, different CR to represent the connection to the Kafka. So we're going to have our Strimzy operator be able to access the Kafka namespace and the namespaces that we have Kafka applications in, but we don't expect the people who are actually writing those applications to have access to our Kafka namespace. So all of the secrets that are going to be used by service binding operator are only in the namespace that the actual application is using. And our expectation in terms of what a user would do is that they would run the service binding operator in a single namespace. It can only access things in that namespace. And whoever's created the Kafka instance will make sure that the right resources are available to them in that namespace. Personally, I feel like it definitely should be possible for the service binding operator to run in a single namespace. I think the limitation would be you have to say your service and whatever secrets also have to be in that same namespace, but that seems a reasonable limitation to me. As far as I'm aware, I don't know what the flow is if I have a service in a different namespace, if my app also needs to be able to access the secrets that are in that namespace in order for the service binding to work. I don't know how that piece works from a service binding perspective, but certainly as a person sort of outside of the service binding operator, I would expect it to be able to work in a single namespace.
Yeah, I think this explanation and the context you are giving about your use case is valid, and to me that makes sense. And the fact that Kartikeya, you tried to do that from this angle at the very beginning is also a proof that probably other users are going to try that from this angle as well.
Yeah.
So I think we need to consider that. So I will qualify that as a bug. It's probably something that we should be prioritizing. So on this, Andy, Bayou, and Pavel, maybe you have an idea of or a route estimate of if this is doable or if it is not doable, or if there is a level of complexity that we do not perceive just from the discussion.
Well, from what I can think of, I believe that the problem why Carnegie wasn't able to do it out of the box was that the survey, sorry, the cluster complaints about the user or some service account or whatever it didn't have the permissions basically. So proper RBAC rules created for the namespace should fix that,
Right.
in my opinion. So now the question is if providing those RBAC is possible to, I mean, just the namespace scope for a particular namespace where the SBO is being installed, if it is possible to do it in an automated way via the OLM. I don't know if that is possible. I get, I think it should be, but I don't know if it is, or if it is, part of the installation process.
Yeah, let me take a comparison with the Helm charts. If it was in Helm charts, it would have been much easy to do that because it's basically the Helm charts providing a template mechanism, right? Whereas the OLM that manifest file is not working like a template. So unless maybe they're providing, we need to investigate that. That's investigation comes into picture. So we need to investigate and find out OLM has any special mechanism to support this kind of dynamically creating the service binding and service binding resources corresponding to the namespace that is selected by the user for the installation. Or what is the mechanism? I can see this option is there in the OLM, all the operators. So they might be given an option to solve this problem because it may be there for others also, right? So we can investigate that OLM feature and find out and hope we can fix it that way.
Before we think about automation, shouldn't we try to figure out what permissions are needed and set it manually first, just to understand what the permissions are needed? And then once we understand the permissions that are needed in this specific use case, then we figure out who is supposed to be setting that, depending on the roles of each specific body.
Right.
So instead of going into the deep of this issue, I think we should create the proper feature request related to this into the backlog, and at least during the next sprint we should look at that to understand what it means, what needs to be changed. I think from Pavel point it makes sense also that we have some maybe more details into the documentation and into the quick start to make sure that other users who are trying out service binding operators, they are not running into the same issue. This is a quick fix that we can probably do in few hours, but let's dig into what does it mean if we want to enable this use case in a more seamless way.
Mm-hmm.
Stefan, I agree, but there's already a current work item that Carnegie is just hit the problem. So what I'm saying is, let's not just say, oh, there's authority problems. Let's say there's authority problems, and this is the authority that is needed, right? I think we need to go a step further in the investigation that we're doing today, as opposed to, create an issue to then investigate. You're already there. You already found the issue, Carnegie. So I think go the next level and figure out what permissions are needed for you to work the same way you work in multi-namespace. Once you do that, then we create an issue to fix it, to automate it, to do many things, right? So, but I think we need more investigation, or it's just a matter of documenting, like you're saying, Stefan. Just this is what's needed, right, from an administrator that's installing this.
Yeah.
I had one doubt, as in, why will a user install SBO in a single namespace? As in, what advantage would it give? I mean, like not having SBO installed in all namespaces and in a single namespace.
It's around the permissions. So in a lot of companies, they'll have different teams that are running different applications. And often, for example, if you have a team, so say in the Kafka example, you wouldn't want all of the people who are writing Kafka apps to have access to the Kafka namespace where your Kafka is running. It's mainly, in my opinion, around a separation of concerns and good kind of role-based locking down of the different pieces. So if your service binding operator only needs to access applications and services and things in one namespace, then from a security standpoint, it's much more secure to say it can only access this one namespace.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Right. I think, does anybody else have anything else to add? I think we've covered the topic. Now we know what to do next. Okay, guess the answer is no. So let's move to the other one.
Yeah, that last one actually.
Okay,
We
sorry.
need to. This is like a meta topic regarding the. So sometimes back we had a discussion around the same topic about issue triaging, but looks like it's not working as we expected, especially with our sprint, the way how we are working. So until now, what we are trying, we were like getting very few issues reported by users, but sometimes some issues need more investigation or more time. So that means just on the call itself, we cannot just identify and do the complete trashing. Some need more investigation and study. So one of my suggestion that came up in some of the meeting to introduce some kind of label to mark, to do the trashing process, to initiate this trashing, and then somebody else take over during that call and come prepared for the next week, and then initiate a more detailed discussion on that. So I would like to get your thoughts and feedback, sorry, on this.
Okay,
Anybody
so-
has any such? Yeah, please.
So this is on the issue triage of the GitHub.
GitHub issue.
Sorry.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Baiju, just to make it clearer, right? Would you be able to maybe for the next meeting document what your proposal is so that we can review and discuss it as a team?
Okay, I thought that we can have a discussion now. Okay, yeah, no problem. I can come up with. So my basic idea, like I explained, introducing a label, and then I assigning to somebody else to work on that, and that person is going to come forward and with more details and discussing in the next meeting. That was the idea. But I can write a document on this
Not a
step-by-step
document. I'm
details.
just. It might be just a few key points would be good just to make sure that we can review and discuss and understand what the proposal is and the impact, right?
Okay.
But
And
in general, are you trying just to are you trying to create a process and then we can follow for issue triage in general? Is that what you're trying to do? I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, something that is revolving around this community call and the open issues in the GitHub, not our internal sprint thing.
Right. Yep.
Right. So how is it that you used to? Because I'm new to the call, sorry, but
We
how is it
didn't
that
really
you,
have a plan before this. It was really ad hoc, right, David?
in the meeting? You guys were doing it right in the meeting, or
No,
not?
not really.
Okay.
It was taken offline, right? So I think it does make sense for us to have a process, right?
Okay.
So it's just rather than let's have something written down so we can discuss this and kind of work through it,
Okay.
right? To make sure that we're taking advantage of the best practice from other communities as well, and so that we understand it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, So next is the issue triaging, sizing, refinement.
This is gonna take a while.
Sorry. Just taking a look at the actual GitHub issues itself, it doesn't look like we have any new bugs to triage for today.
No, the only one which is new is the one we had just discussed with Kartiki.
Right.
There is no new issue.
And sorry for dropping this late, but there is also this issue related to the OpenShift Developer Console. So it is about enabling the ability to do multiple bindings between the same project and the same service. So it's something that has been asked quite oftenly. And in fact, I think this is very interesting in the context of Kafka, because you can have one application which will be binding to two different streams, and you could do that on with Managed Kafka and handle this with service binding operator. So today, when you are in the OpenShift Developer Console, on the topology view, you cannot do you cannot do multiple binding between the same service and the same application component. So we need a way to enable that. From a service binding point of view, this is already doable. It's just a matter of naming the binding differently. But I wanted to bring this to your attention, everyone, because this is something where we will need to collaborate with the team from OpenShift Developer Console, and also need to look and find a good way to represent those multiple bindings as well.
Okay.
Is this a feature that we already have in our board?
It doesn't look like it.
We should have, so we don't have an epic for this in our board? This is an epic. This doesn't look like an issue.
Yeah,
David, SBO itself is capable of doing so. It's as Stephen has said, it's a matter of just uniquely naming the service bindings resources, right? And that you can have multiple binding resources with between the same service and application, and there wouldn't be any conflicts. But the problem is that this is not available in the console, in the developer console, in the topology view, and
But
for
do we need
various
to take any
reasons.
actions? So we need to take any actions or no?
we need to be involved, and we need to work along with the OpenShift Developer Console. So that is one of the cross-team work that we will
Integration
do.
work. Yeah.
We will work with them, but on our side there is no specific
There's no,
implementation. But
got it,
as
okay.
as domain expert of service binding, we need to help our
Absolutely.
friends.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Stephen, maybe I have some thought. Maybe can correct me if I'm wrong. I've started noticing some new development in the console side where they're creating some kind of framework so that the backing the other services or other team can build on that framework and create UA components. So I noticed this while looking at that the dbus operator, right? So I know their operator, I can see they're working on some kind of UA components. So that means they work on the backing, that's whatever the operator plus whatever the related UA components also. So is this some kind of strategy or planning there, introducing, and so that going to make us also to do this kind of UA related stuff based on that framework? Any idea? Have you heard anything?
Sure. So the quick answer is we are really interested by the plugin capabilities from the developer console. We are interested about that from different angles. But on the topology itself and based on what we have today and how it works, it will be we are not in a position to start building the UI by ourselves. So we need to still to work with the ODC team. But later on, definitely, there is one thing that we are thinking about with the service of binding operator. It is providing some sort of a catalog of services, and for that we will build probably some UI related to that as well. So it's still early thoughts, but it might be very interesting to look at that. So we can discuss more at another session if needed.
I think we need to just at least understand how it's gonna work. So that would be the first step. Just see if we can do a POC to bring in those components to our operator, right? And be able to plug into the console. But that doesn't mean that we're gonna deliver, that, and we're not gonna continue depending on that.
Yeah, but we are following this effort, and we are very much interested by this as it will allow us to probably do some interesting things. But
and we don't have to do a POC. It could be some other team that does the POC, and we just help them, or we understand. It doesn't have to be us, because as long as we understand how one plugin is done, then I think that's it. That's what we need to know.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So the issue triaging sizing, this was supposed to be for the upstream, right? For the GitHub.
Correct.
This is for upstream.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we do not have anything new, we can at least check if there are any updates on some recent issues. But the most recent issue before the Kartikis one is 3 weeks ago, and it's from 3 weeks ago or so, and basically there is no update at the end. So I think we can skip that to save some time. So anybody else has anything to add or to discuss? Okay, so the last thing is an assignment for the next meeting. So for the next meeting schedule, it is Shruti. So Shruti, if you are around.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.